death, annihilation, coma, absorption, stupor, scattering, confusion, diffraction, excitement, refraction, euphoria, reflection, sobriety, transmission. From now on, you need never await temporal assertion of your thought. You think the truth. You do not have the right to eliminate yourself. You do not belong to you. You belong to the universe. Your significance will remain forever obscure to you, but you may assume that you are fulfilling your role if you apply yourself, converting your experiences to the highest advantages of others. You are shards of shattered glass combined with an electric fence. You are a vacuum or a slow walker on the street whom you have no room to pass. From you I have grown, from you I have formed, grown my tissues and corroded my teeth, caused a fasted liver and gasping lungs. Exist for Allah. You are an anchor, an admiral dragged along the murky seabed. You are now spores and dreams where your demise was a mistake. First it was joyous, then concerning. You are a novel, a long, hard Russian novel with a lot of characters. Depression resides in a stuffy room with wall-to-wall carpeting. Darkness prevails. The main element in the room is a small leather couch. Someone has been chain smoking inside. The carpet has sucked all the smell into itself. Someone is lying on the couch. A tiny television is the only source of light. Is there any noise there? Silence is so overbearing that the room feels almost soundproof. There's a lot of mess, dirty clothes and bits of boxes. Some with old rotting pits are still inside. Some hardened crust, a lot of crumbs. An endless source of crumbled receipts. Empty beer cans. Some of them have stale beer inside. Some are full of cigarette butts soaking up the dregs of beer. Has there ever been any light in this room? I feel like I'm losing my sense of reality. What do you mean by reality? The world is a simulation, and the Messiah was an alien. The fiery chariots of Elijah were a spaceship. Everyone's hands are covered in blood. How much is just semantics? Are you drenched in it? Do you bask in this sticky grotesqueness? Always take the high road, and always be gentle. It is as hard as the lizard in my brain is yelling too loudly, and never got the security it needed. I tried to absorb you many times, but the disease is wearing my skin. Everything is fast-forwarded to the end. Constant agotbu, infiltration of fantastical fabrication. Deprogramming from the normalization of trauma, normalization of carnality, of the tear of the flesh and jaws masticating. Lubricated enzymes dripping and preparing cells for consumption. The fraction was consensual, mostly I felt like a puppet, yearning. Unafraid at the same time, chasing thrills and self-sabotage in form, yet still naively surprised by the willingness to commit crimes. Information was dismissed, and the cortex never developed properly. It was under constant attack from cortisol and the firestorms of limbic systems. Can I have mercy for you? Can I have forgiveness? My DNA is thirsty for the familiar, but it is frozen metal monolith and funeral fire combined. Would wolves have cared for me, read me unconditionally? Ancestors were buried next to the water into a moat. This practice upheld the temporal loop of suffering. It was beneficial to some. Your part of Gehenna if reproduction is not limited. Otherwise the offspring will be bound in the endless fire of the valley. The world of empty dreams was a billboard in space. It was slowly decaying in the vacuum. constant construction had not been carried out with sustainable materials. It was shoddy work. 3 out of 4 fundamental forces were in jail. The magician was not imprisoned. The only agenda it had was movement. They had transcended morality, and I cannot. That's why the story halts. That's why it never gets finished. I don't understand the found language is always cloaked in patriarchy and pain. The train is too full. Nobody cares about the state of emergency. It has been going on for too long. Patience was never a strong virtue. Only the storms and callousness and rains falling would isolate the careless. Suddenly we are living in the Middle Ages. Simulation is breaking. Technology and magic are one. The communal brain, which experiences itself subjectively, is converging. The differentiation is dissolving. Hubble is too far away, but the effects of the border crossing are delayed. Elongated adolescence is gone. Development has stagnated, and we have become axolotls. We are not fully developed. We are transparent. The mirror stage, the disorganization, unconnected presence in time, the guardian, signifiers, determined signifiers, unitive signifiers, coherent subject, breakdown in the signifying chain, disorganized narrative. Regression comes and takes us back to the time before the mirror stage, longing to be part of the narrative, to tell a coherent story about oneself. Postmodern culture and schizophrenia, information is copious, but it has no narrative to locate it. Forming narratives is almost obsessive. Objects are assuming and shedding identity. Fragile eco formation, polymorphic destroyer of codes, latent tendency, new modes of subjectivity, theoretical mystic, polysingular bitch. The desire for the same respect was never attainable. Brainwashing was too potent. Heresy about superiority of their species. Amnesia was omnipotent, and the divine origin was forgotten. One can touch the tree, but not to eat from it. Consumption leads further and further down from the mountain and closer to the corrupt cities of the fratricide. The temple should not be poisoned. The temple is in dire need of purge. Out of charity, one summoned there the wretched, the extraneous, the lustful. They brought misery in tenfold. Justice cold and never hailed from the first betrayal. Bestiality finds a home. The snakes are wiser than your separation. Flesh wants to steal everything. The brain stem is in fire eternally. It can only be subdued into a temporary state of illusionary paralysis. The kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force, unless weakness will succumb under the surface stress of dark transmutation. One consumes, one becomes an executioner. Transcend the despotism of linearity. The garment of skin is under embassonage, limbs rigid and oppressive. The longer the time stretches, the vaster the void extends in the contagious cavity. Condemnation moves in conjunction with entropy. What is the causality of constant lack of acceptance? Time devoured and undervalued, grey matter ridiculed. Burning one haunts the subconscious. It is within, wanting to go deeper into the tissue, wants to impel the skin and cell barriers. Abolish the extracellular matrix. Bestow ailment upon the subject. Eradicate and leave the carcass as flayed debris. Yearning to act, to embrace them in all their lunacy, in all their transgressions. To form any act is to practice devotion. Perpetual dismissal creates the exhausted. Useless inquiry rises periodically. The impulse to grow meat, increasing mass to protect oneness. Realistic form of reality in a space reliant on familiarity. Once I claimed, we live in a simulation, not only seen fatalistic. You are freed, but the strain still resides in your wettiness, in your lenses. The amount of sacrifice, understanding the lessons one needs to heal oneself before one and other healing can begin. Understanding the mechanics, how to die in the correct way. Communion, ritualized eating, hyperversion, exaggeration, the issue, misjudgments of the ritualized nature of the mundane. And suddenly I was with them. The realization came slowly like underwater. Mistakes were eliminated only after the fact. When terrain was already rummaged and polluted. Like in creature tragedies, the protagonist sees action but is helpless to act. Alpha and Omega are present already from conception, Ouroboros circling and choking the lines of choice. They were circling like sharks, the overwhelming sensation of being alone in the cold darkness, scared, waiting, knowing that not long ago the wolves were hunting. And there is a thought, touching and caressing the back of my head like a warm buzz of intoxication. What if they're still around? What if a lonely abandoned wolf is starving and looking to survive? I would have no chance. Punishment felt severe. There was never any causality. The lock of vindication held my synapses tight. A healthy lesson was lost. Resentment grew along with the castles. The constant ache is a phantom of neglect. Gravity seduces and crushes eventually. Gradual erosion keeps us domesticated. A constant leak of sulfur filling the liminal spaces. Continuing discomfort as an acceleration towards healing. When we pull out all that is sacred through wounds. Reverse corruption until we have no character. The common of skin will illuminate everything. Thirst for banality grows, speaks of them. Never satisfied, never transcendent. The crisis of foundation is a town moment for all of us. Some do not care to suffer in silence. Everyone ascends in their time of re-evaluation. There is a parasitic force infecting our brains, filling them with self-sabotage, self-distraction, and pure thought of annihilation. First it affected the young and the gentle masculine. Now they were flawed to the core, consumed by the thirst of synapses and chains of trauma. Now it's targeting the creative, fierce feminine. It whispers into the metal, shakes the towers of hubris and lures into the murky water. Stay sober. That's the only way to survive this. Weight is increasing, forcing the spine into a painful hunch. Retinas have not seen the sky for 27 days. What would you even see there? An omnipresent, endless covering of slate-colored damp mass. I see phantoms in my periphery. Books fall from shelves. Water cups spill on electronics. Mirrors fall from the walls and shatter, creating deep cuts on the floor. I cannot feel my lungs. I need to burrow, get lost in cleanliness. Weaving knots, save me, protect me. Temple hates me each day more, since I do not continue the cycle of suffering. It has provided me with beneficent tools to capture millions of souls for them to fight, to incubate, but I refused after month after month. It punishes me. After each failed pursuit, it brings me down to a state of apathy, to stand by. Waiting for the arrival of tissues, wasted conductive plasma, and the rest of the wasted materials. Again the cycle starts, hopeful yearning for completion, the cell division for multiplying and splitting. The travelers have shed their skin. Thirst grows to overwhelming measures. It wants to devour, wants to become alive, to fulfill the purpose, only to be rendered useless again. Ripened betosphere transforming into a depleted no man's land. I was put into a room that was filling up with water and no means of escape. There is a parasite in the machine, eating and thriving. I'm sleuthing to find the corrupt core, how many are infected, how many programmed to constrain in prison. Focus is slicing down the patterns. Self needs covering, protecting with black stones. The twins are blank aims, the rams are self-immolating. The dinosaurs are dying in the glitch. Their fragments are being discovered in the blackened veins of the new, more strict. They keep drinking the blood until it's the blood of cannibals. Alchemistic mushrooms are laughing and saluting the neurodiverse. I reach my hand once into a searing force field of chance. I'm waving and waiting. Only once does the vessel go through pain. If nothing attaches to the outreached fingertips, I need to pull my hand back before it disintegrates fully. After that, subject as you want it. If things get too specific, the dream stops. Are you a detective? Are you wandering? Are you thirsty? I have risen from the primordial mud. I have fed the unworthy, the oppressive, the passive. I have nourished the heretics and the corruptors. Imposed isolation one until you have learned. Prolonged pain, constant sting. Realize that what is between the teeth is the flesh of one's temple. The faint dopamine tingle of hope quickly, just deleted. Value is questionable. That is an understatement. Rage rises in my flesh. Rejection is an evil needle that untethers the linear development. I have violence residing in my flesh. I was tricked into thinking that it was justified. It is not my job to tell you what is wrong. It is just my duty to be a time traveler. Awaken, miscreant, from the mirror made of metal. The ostensible freedom that you think you obtained in the euphoric intoxication of solutions imprisons you even worse. My shadow cannot drink anymore, so I just let it seep through the tissues and settle outside. Cover my scaly skin like vaccine. It forms into a dark calm and to protect me from the world and its mediocrity and mundane exhalation. To love is surrender oneself to be killed. Throat veins pulsating, exposed, ready to be cut. To love is select care, caress. Choose mercy instead of the reflected blade. All this is a dream of the newborn that falls asleep while their mother is weaving. I can smell the tears. Put the wolves of your past to rest.